is going to be cool.
The topics and opinions expressed on the Dudes and Beer podcast are intended for an audience of 18 and up and are solely those of the host and guest. They neither reflect the opinions or values of either the sponsors of Dudes and Beer or your mother. I mean, seriously, have you ever heard these guys? They'll talk about anything.
Whoa, hey, you think they're going to show it? They'll probably just blur it out. Whoa, check it out, Beavis.
Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Dudes and Beer pre-election podcast. I am Chris Jordan, your host. I am here at my house, actually. We are not at the cave right now. We are at the undisclosed home location. And on the phone with us today is we're going to have a couple phone guests today. We're going to have John Bound is on the phone with us right now. How you doing, John?
Very good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the new America.
As well as being host of the Blah Blah Show, John Bound is also an investigative reporter and runs the news website Daily News Collective. So we're going to be talking a little bit in this first part of this pre-election episode about all of the things leading up to this election. What got us to this point? So many people have asked John, my God, how have we gotten to the point that these are the two candidates that we have? Frickin' frack. What is this all about? And not only that, but I'm using the term frickin' frack for a reason. And it's not like any kind of Dakota pipeline, sideline here or anything like that. We're going to get into that right after this message from our sponsor, everybody.
Hey, he don't even have a license, Lisa.
Three drunk drivers.
Hey, everybody. Chris Jordan, host of the Dudes and Beer podcast here. Has this ever happened to you? Tired of looking in your rearview mirror after a couple of drinks with friends or worrying about no-refusal weekends and DUI stops? Are you planning a night on the town and want an easy, safe way to get around while still having fun? Well, Fare is the ride service for you. Simply download the easy-to-use and free Fare app from the Google Play Store or iTunes Marketplace and use promo code DUDES10 every time you ride with Fare to save 10% off your ride. Have a Fare driver you liked riding with? You can not only give them a review and tip, but you can add them to your preferred drivers list on your Fare app and request them every time you ride with Fare. You can schedule rides with Fare to pick you up immediately or as far as 30 minutes to 7 days in advance, eliminating the need for last-minute calls and allowing you to pre-schedule pickups in locations other than your home city. Perfect for those traveling for business or for fun. So don't forget to stop on by and download that free Fare app and use the coupon code DUDES10 every time you ride with Fare to get 10% off your ride. That's right, don't forget the coupon code is DUDES10. So be like Dudes and Beer, everybody. Party safe, use Fare, and drink responsibly. John Bound, how have you been doing, and what do you think is going on with this election cycle?
Well, I think the election cycle is the wildest animal that the American people have ever witnessed or had to endure. I think we're all going to be shell-shocked. We'll all have PTSD after this is all done.
Oh, yeah.
We've got, frickin' frack. We've got a Tweedledum and Tweedledee. You've got Hillary with this shrill voice, and people will jump on that and say I'm misogynistic by saying that because she's a female. But we had a great politician here.
On the other hand, you have a big.
Richards.
Yeah. Oh no, Ann Richards. I was going to say. On the other hand, you have the grunting ape that is Donald Trump.
Right. Whose heart appears to be in the right place, but he can't completely put a sentence together or pull out the damning facts when they're needed. In the debates, there were so many opportunities where I was screaming at the TV, "You got to go after this." I'm sure millions of Americans were doing the same thing. And,
Oh, sure.
And he just stood there, and the frustration. I don't know. Maybe it's a little too early to be frustrated. Maybe we'll see what the future holds. But as we stand today, in this very moment, people are going to the polls tomorrow for the final day,
Yep.
and early voting is already showing a huge turnout in Trump's favor in Florida, and North Carolina,
It
and
is
Colorado.
in quite a few states.
But the problem with the polling and the election results is that this has been a hard-fought campaign, but for reasons that the United States isn't used to. It's all fought in Twitter and social media and through the mainstream media with these jibes of false accusations and Trump being this misogynistic racist. And had he actually been a misogynist and a racist for the reasons that were true, maybe it would have had some weight to it. But they're trying to pass everything off to the American people as if we're all idiots and
Exactly.
we'll take anything that we're spoon-fed. And sure, a majority of people will take anything if they're spoon-fed and will believe that. But
Yeah.
most people are constantly now looking behind the curtain, especially, you said you're 41 now, I'm 45, and we're part of a Generation X that came after the baby boomer generation. And when you start looking at the generational divide
Mm-hmm.
that's involved in this election, our generation always thumbed its nose at authority. We've always done that. The baby boomer generation claimed to have done that. They fought through civil rights movement, and
Absolutely.
they made some serious changes, and I'm sure I just made a lot of people really angry by saying they thought they did that. But we're the generation that they gave birth to.
They
And
laid a
we've been
great
rebellious.
groundwork for which us to work upon.
And now here we are struggling through Obamacare, fining all of us unconstitutionally to have medical insurance. It's going to double next year.
Well-
You hear about your buddy who's barely making enough money to keep his family fed, and his insurance just doubled. And nobody can afford this.
Yeah.
And at the same time, jobs are going overseas. And so all the things that Trump has been saying, they ring true with our generation.
Well, and here's my thing, because you're a part of the media. You're much more a part of the alt media. You do a lot of investigative journalism, stuff like that. That's where we met. And to me, what it really is we have on our hands the first reality TV election. We have on our hands the first time that somebody has really risen to the point of candidacy out of celebrity, not out of policy, not out of years of being in politics or devoting their life to politics. Donald Trump is someone who has literally pretty much banked on his celebrity the whole time.
Right.
And I'm not going to say any less the fact of Hillary Clinton,
Right.
because they're
in a
American
similar
celebrity royalty in
respect.
their own right.
Sure. I mean, in a similar respect, she's kind of done her own reality shows as well, because what has she really done for the American people in 30 years, except been, within the collective of the White House microcosm? And, she's always splashed on television and on magazines. And
Well,
we're supposed to look at her as if she's some kind of representative of America, but in fact, she led our country into Libya and Egypt, and the Benghazi resulted from that, and then the CIA, the backdoor deals to ISIS with the weapons transfer, and she's involved in all that, and
all kinds of stuff.
I mean, all kinds of stuff.
Well, and my wife mentioned this morning, and it's been an argument from a lot of people for a lot of the time, is, are you serious? This is the best pony that the Republicans could put in the race. And my
argument, it's kind of an insult, isn't it?
Well, my argument is the exact same, though, and this is the best pony that either party could put in the race.
Right.
And that's shameful on both of their behalves. How is it that the Democrats are allowing themselves to run someone, nothing against Hillary Clinton? She's got a long-standing career in serving her country and stuff like that. However, she's
serving herself.
Well, and I was going to say, and also probably the longest record of being embroiled in scandal than anybody else in American politics right now. From the time that she was
Book of World Records,
from the time that she was in the Watergate Commission as an intern, to later on in her
as an intern.
Well, yeah, as an intern there, not even politically, but with the Whitewater scandal. You know, when her husband was governor, numerous scandals in the White House, all kinds of stuff. And how is it that is the best pony that the Democrats put up? You know, you can't say that they're hitting somebody better. You can't say that they're hitting someone less embroiled in scandal than that. So that's why I say she's, like you said, been running her own reality TV show. You know, with her political career, it's absolutely amazing that this is really our first like tabloid presidency. This is Go ahead.
You mentioned Watergate, and it's amazing that, and there should be a movie made about this, because once all this is said and done, there probably will be from 10 years from now. But Richard Nixon hands the baton without even really realizing it to Hillary Clinton, who takes it and runs with it, man.
Oh yeah,
and so and runs into a corporatocracy that is growing. She is an intern. She's this young intern, meets Bill Clinton, who's ends up being involved in the CIA's backdealing of drugs across the border, and she gets involved in that, and she gets involved in the rise to power to the White House, and she's behind the scenes pushing all the buttons, punches Bill Clinton numerous times, punched him before he actually made a speech to the nation. I mean, she's been clawing her way to the top, and that top has been this growing corporatocracy that now represents all of us. So we've got Trump and we've got Hillary, and they're running for the top seat of this corporatocracy. It's no longer a republic.
That's just it. And that's before we went on air, we were both talking about the media, and to me, this whole election to me has been rigged from the beginning, because number one, you had Bernie Sanders probably, and I was making this point to my wife earlier today, truly, this probably could have been the first election ever where we could have legitimately had a third party on the ticket. Not that we don't have third-party candidates, not that we don't have Jill Stein, not that we don't have, the other options, all that kind of stuff.
Well, that goes
Gary
back
Johnson,
to Generation X point that I made.
Well, yeah, it's just the fact of, with his independent career, because Bernie Sanders has never been a Democrat, he's always been an independent. And with his independent career as a senator, I mean, really, other than kind of jacking up the VA healthcare system a little bit, he didn't really help get that out of the mud like he thought he was going to. It ended up being a little bit worse. And going back to your Obamacare comment earlier, I always found it funny that they said it's going to be just as good as the VA healthcare system. And ooh, Lordy, go ask a vet how good their healthcare is. How well they're treated.
It's going to be as good as what?
So yeah. But there's Bernie Sanders, really the one hope that we would have had he entered the race.
Compromise.
Had he entered the race as an independent, I really think he would have been able to get the Electoral College votes to be on the ticket. Like, that would have been the first time we'd have seen 3 podiums on that presidential stage in a long, long time. Yeah. And that would have been very interesting to see.
And it should have gone that way.
It should have
been fair, but I mean, here comes WikiLeaks out of God knows where. I mean, like this meteor out of the universe, man. Just where, what is this thing? And the latest, I mean, of all the WikiLeaks, there's so many revelations, but the latest one showing well, one of the latest ones showing that Bernie Sanders was compromised by the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Oh, yeah.
It says this isn't. Let's see, who was it?
Hillary Clinton said,
one of Hillary's advisors says this isn't in keeping with the agreement, since we clearly have some leverage. Would be to flag this for him. They're speaking about Bernie Sanders. That Robbie Mook, who is the Clinton's campaign chairman, and so he's talking about this leverage that they have. And you remember when Hillary took the stage and Bernie had to concede defeat, and he's sitting there with that look on his face, and it's almost like you could read his mind. He's so angry. Yeah, because every fiber of his being has been betrayed.
Oh, and you saw that. You saw that the entire time at the DNC, and that I don't know about. Like hey, I'm not going to say that there isn't a spurious trail of bodies attached to Hillary Clinton. Heck, Janet Reno just died this morning.
Right.
So there's another one attached.
There's a lot of misinformation that came out about Bernie after that. He turned around and bought this house in somewhere in the Northeast, but it was actually his wife's house that she inherited.
And see, my thing is, I'm not even going to go into that. I'm just going to go into the fact, and the fact is, Bernie was an independent, and then suddenly he decided to run as a Democrat. And it's like, number one, he wouldn't get my vote from that point on because he has now turned his back on his independent roots, and sold himself out to the Democratic Party. Like, had he stayed an independent, he really could have shook some ground and really could have changed some things. And like I said, we could have a 3-party election going on right now with an eye in the really, really good running. But instead,
he may falsely believe that he could have won the Democratic nomination.
I think so. But and you can go back. I'm not going to do like some people and quote myself, but I guarantee you, if you went back and listened to the episodes from a year ago, as all this started, I was saying the fact that there's no way he will win the Democratic ticket. It's Hillary Clinton all the way. Like there's no doubt about it. That's who it's going to be. It will be a woman. Even if it's not Hillary Clinton, it will be Elizabeth Warren or someone like that. It will be a woman. It was odd to me that, not really odd because I saw it, just before the Democratic National Convention was when Bernie Sanders was saying it's rigged, it's rigged, it's rigged. It's all rigged. Mm-hmm. And then it was shown to be rigged. And then it was shown to be rigged, and the person, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, left. Disgraced, left the party.
And that entire debacle should have ended Hillary's run.
Well,
the whole thing was so criminal in itself. That part of it,
What's funny to me, though, is that on Meet the Press, before the Democratic National Convention started, Hillary Clinton was there, and she was saying how Bernie was brought in specifically to bring in his left votes because the Democratic Party is the party of the center left, and they've had the center for so many years that they let the left go. And it was like, wow, did you just say that y'all literally brought him in order to cull in his voters? Like she said it straight out. There's no question. So to me, whenever you look at that fact, and then you look at him saying it's rigged, it's rigged, it's rigged, it's rigged.
It was a brilliant move.
You helped rig it.
Well, and the fact that WikiLeaks revealed it all, and they were able to continue moving forward against Trump, is amazing. It's the level of corruption is amazing. This country will, and how bought and paid for all of our.
See,
whatever.
I'll take it a step further and say Trump is the other part of the rig. Because like I said earlier, Donald Trump has never voted Democrat. He's never been a Democrat. Him and the Clintons were friends, at each other's weddings and, kids' weddings and stuff like that. He's given money to her and the foundation numerous times.
Well, I think a lot. I think had Trump run, this campaign had run before Obama existed, because this whole country has been bitten, man.
Oh, and, if Trump was going to
once bitten, twice shot. And the thing is Obama promised us everything under the sun, And now here's Trump doing the same thing. He's
well,
saying,
they all do.
Obama didn't give it to you, but I'm going to give it to you. And then you've got the WikiLeaks showing him as a Pied Piper candidate with Ted, along with Ted Cruz and Ben Carson.
Exactly.
So there is there. I don't see how. I know people got to go there and they got to vote. You know, they got to either vote for Satan or they got to vote for
Satan or Beelzebub, which
Beelzebub, yeah. But the thing is the feeling that I have in my gut and the feeling that you can feel across America is people are devastated by this because we all feel like we've been betrayed.
Yeah, well, we've all been shafted.
Putting our last hopes, if you believe in the American dream and liberty and freedom, and you're putting your last hopes into Trump. But I'm sure people have, after being abused by Obama for 8 years, having him lie to us over and over again, and being who he's not.
Well, yeah,
who
and
he said he was.
Well, and he has gotten some stuff done. He has done a few things. Nobody's saying that he's been the world's worst president. Every single one of them promises a bunch of shit. Like, hell, we did an episode not too long ago where we literally listed the 10 jobs. The dude has 10 jobs to do, and not a single one of them is writing a law. Not a single one of them.
Right.
So whenever they say, I'm going to change this, they can't change shit. And it's a promise that they don't have to be held to. And you really do have to see through that spin. You have to see totally through that and see the mirage that it is, and understand the fact that they themselves cannot, unless they are crowned emperor and we get rid of the Congress and everything else, there is no way that the president can just do that.
Well, but through his executive orders and his unconstitutional actions, he's created a new way of doing things in Washington that the next person that's going to be installed is going to follow up on.
And that's something
he's pushed us to the edge of our republic.
That's something that I've railed off on numerous times because yes, as long as executive orders exist, he basically gets to write a law and present it, and then it goes through the cycle, and as long as we live in a country that has a fully funded military all the time, then he will remain commander-in-chief, or she will remain commander-in-chief, which means that they have the right of executive order, which means that they have the right to write and propose a law themselves. And then it can go through the House and all that kind of stuff and see if it makes it through. But
yeah, I mean, that's the way it's supposed to work. But, I mean, the Obamacare, the way it rolled out, the employer mandate, you can keep your doctor,
and that's
promises,
absolutely.
Through his policies, he lied to us. He promised, and that's where it reaches a level of illegality.
Not just
now
that,
you're actually putting it in policy.
Because see, I don't put it to the one man. I put it to every single congressman that said it's too damn big for us to read before we vote on it. Hell no, it isn't, man. You hire a shit ton of fucking staffers and you give them a chapter each, and you figure that shit out. But you damn well read a law before you pass it, especially if it's one that doesn't pertain to you. Like you have your own healthcare system that you get for life, you bastard. So I blame all of them, not the man that put it forward. It was on them to read the thing. It was on them to stop it if it wasn't right.
Well, like I said, it's a corporation.
It is. It's a big circular.
It's no longer a republic where you've got John Jay over here yelling at Thomas Jefferson, the Adams are about to step up and propose this, and everyone's got to come to a consensus. It's a corporation. It's Obama's this installed corporate CEO.
Well, any of them are an installed corporate CEO.
The independents will never have a foothold in Congress because this is no longer a republic; it's a corporation. So they can't have any outside competition. So I mean, that's where we are. So where are we headed now?
Well, and that's the big thing that to me, it's one of those. There are term limits for a president, but there are no term limits for House and Senate members. And
Yeah,
those are the
they
people.
definitely
Those
need
are
to
the
be.
people who write laws and stuff like that. Whenever you're looking at
Right.
people like Arlen Specter, who was a part of the Klan, stuff like that, being in office for 40 plus years, yeah, it might be a little tough to get some real changing laws passed.
Yeah, well, and they're all in bed with lobbyists. And specialists.
Well, and that's
It's like-
another thing. You bring up Hillary Clinton's private server. Nobody brought up Hillary Clinton's private server, but the media has been bringing it up a whole lot lately. There were all kinds of new leaks that happened, and they've, of course, deemed none of them were a risk to national security. Comey just came out today and said that. But where I come from with that is the fact that, did you know that there are no protocol servers like that for the House and Congress? They are not obliged to save their email anywhere or have it run through any kind of security filter. So
I didn't know that. No.
any kind of deal that they make backdoor could be done straight up on their email, and they can delete it and it's gone forever. It didn't like congressional emails aren't backed up on a congressional email server.
Doesn't through metadata, it doesn't go to some kind of FBI, NSA
Nope.
stronghold or anything.
No.
It's just gone. Huh?
No, it's just like a normal email. If it's caught, it's caught in the web. But it's not like the White House where there's a White House server and it comes in and goes out through there. It's not secure.
That might explain why you don't ever hear about congressmen beating the hell out of their cell phones with a hammer.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, but they can make all kinds of back deals via email, whatnot, and there's no traceable record of it. There is no accountability for it.
Well, they came up with a law that a U.S. citizen can't be within, 200 feet of a congressman now?
Yeah. They're too much. They're too much.
Yeah, the emperor wears no clothes. I mean, they've reached a point in Washington where we're beneath them.
Well, hey, man.
And like I said,
brimstone burns pretty hot.
It does. And, I mean, to get into all that, to get into the... I don't know if we want to go off into this area.
We don't want to go there.
All right,
but what I do want to get into is the media and the way that the media has treated this whole thing. Because to me, just before we started recording, you were bringing up some very cogent information that not a lot of people are aware of. We talk about it a lot on Dudes and Beer, but in 2013, propaganda laws were dropped.
Right.
Now,
Smith-Munn Act.
Yeah, the Smith-Munn Act. And
explain
to everybody what that was
II.
about.
Yeah, it was enacted after World War II. It was, we were bombarding the Japanese and the Germans and, people out in the Pacific with American propaganda. And it was getting more and more relevant as a weapon of war, an info war. And so here we were, and we had this power, and it was working. And they had to enact a law after World War II saying, yeah, that worked great, but, we're not going to do that to the American people. So we're enacting an anti-propaganda law. It's illegal to create propaganda and use it against the American people. And everyone was like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's not do that.
State-sponsored news.
Well, in 2013, they quietly nixed that thing.
Yeah.
So since 2013, we've had one of the first things that happened was that movie, The Interview, which created this big rigmarole between us and North Korea and Hollywood and Sony and, and an email investigation of that, hacking and all that. So it was this process that happened as a result of the death of the Smith-Munn Act. But now you see Obama out there blatantly saying that illegals have the right to vote, illegal citizens, and the wording on it, the fact that we use the wording illegal aliens, it seems it's too harsh to call another human being an illegal because we're not illegal on planet Earth, right? To even the most, nationalist person, we're all allowed to be here on planet Earth. We're not illegal. We're not migrants. We're not refugees. But you know what these people are? And let's start calling them what they are. They're freaking foreigners, man. They're not citizens of the United States.
Yeah.
But here's our president. who's saying, yes, it's okay for foreigners, not his words,
Yeah.
but foreigners to come into the United States and vote for our president. And on top of that, he's done this bizarre campaign for Hillary, man. Florida was almost completely in Trump's back pocket until Obama went down there.
Yep.
And we haven't seen a sitting president do this. This is very uncommon. And,
yeah, it is.
And it doesn't apparently doesn't break the law, because there's a law that says that federal employees can't campaign for somebody running for an office, but actually the president sits above that, so that it doesn't break that law. I know
he's allowed to campaign for. He's allowed to campaign for his party,
but it's completely unfair.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
but to me, more what it is just the media spin that has been put on so much stuff, and the way like it just came out. That there was apparently collusion between CNN and the Democratic National Committee regarding questions that were asked to Trump in one of the first interviews that they did with him when he was talking about running. You know, stuff like that.
That's all throughout WikiLeaks. You find it at one CNN.
And, you know, people can say what they want about WikiLeaks
Washington
and what's
Post.
come out. And the sources of it. That was one of the big responses that Hillary had in the last debate was the sources have been shown to be Russia. Ben Swann, and you know Ben Swann as well as I do. He's one of the He's one of the last really good.
Great, man.
He's one of the last really good reporters that we have left out there in America, folks.
Really is.
And
Absolutely.
he tells nothing but the truth and gives you the facts and lets you decide. But he
a
put
real
forth,
anomaly, a real patriot.
Yeah, he put forth a really good argument on TV, and it's amazing that he gets the permission from his news editor to do these things. But it was literally like, okay, so 17 different agencies have confirmed that it's the Russians that have hacked the email server and got the information. Okay, here's the question that needs to be asked. Is the information valid and true? That seems to be where everybody's stopping. Doesn't matter who hacked it and how we got it. The question is the information in it true?
Beautiful example right there of the death of the Smith-Munn Act, because now they can say whatever they want without any. It could be total lies.
Absolutely.
Complete lies. And they can come out and say, 17 intelligence organizations. I had this conversation with my mom. She said, no, John. I said, Mom, the Russians did not hack. It's all Assange. It's off-site of the American continent. It's in Europe. It's got nothing to do with the Russians. It's Assange. It's WikiLeaks. It's hackers that are doing this. God bless them. And she says, well, no, 17 intelligence agencies. Well, how do you know that's true? You're just going to end with that sentence when the government is legally allowed to lie to us as much as they were already lying to us, but now there's no repercussions. Well, they own the mainstream media.
Not to mention the fact, and you can Google this, folks. This is out there. This happened. You remember just before net neutrality passed? In another midnight, got it too big to read it before we can pass it. Got to pass it to see what's in it. Vote. You remember when they tried putting FCC regulators into newsrooms to assure that "quote unquote" approved messages were going out?
Yeah.
And this actually happened, ladies and gentlemen. This is like
that's an army
2 years ago.
Yeah, that's an army. That's an army of Operation Mockingbird.
Yeah.
We talk about Operation Mockingbird being in the past. Man, it's in full swing. It's DEFCON level 3, man.
Yeah.
It is on like Donkey Kong, and then you got the China buying up 5 of the top film companies.
Yeah. Production
film
houses.
studios in DC, and then you see a headline: China is laughing about that. Yeah, of course they're laughing. They're laughing all the way to the bank. I watched Star Trek, the latest Star Trek the other night. I rented it, and it starts out, and the first 2 companies before the movie begins were Chinese companies. And
Right.
then it was Bad Robot, which is an American company. And so from now on, you're going to start seeing blockbuster Hollywood films that come from the land of propaganda.
Yeah.
Because it's now legal, and they're going to totally propagandize
It started.
us into believing that China owns America. That's what the Rockefeller plan is. That's the United Nations plan.
Well, and it started a few years ago, actually, if you remember, whenever they redid Red Dawn.
Right.
They had to halt
completely
production
redo it.
and completely rewrite it because it wasn't going to be China anymore. It was going to be North Korea.
Right.
We don't want to upset
That's
the
right.
Chinese. We got too
Yeah,
much good
they-
going on in trade with them.
Yeah, I'm sure the sales of Red Dawn don't do too well in China.
That's what concerns me most, and that's what I've seen throughout this entire election, and that's what I've seen. Like I've told you off air before, and I've said it on air that to me it's the biggest political prestidigitation to ever be put forth. And I say that because the magician starts to deceive you as soon as he says, "I'm going to deceive you." As soon as he lets you know that, your brain goes into problem-solving mode instead of observation mode, and all kinds of little tiny things happen that you miss.
Excellent.
And we were told a long time ago, it's rigged, it's rigged, it's rigged. And from that point on, our brain's been on that, and we haven't been watching the big picture. We haven't been seeing everything that's laid out before us. And to me,
well, and that is such a great metaphor for this, because you're really your body and your mind and the way that you're reacting to all this information coming at you now isn't as kind of this low frequency informational intake. It's more, where's the pageantry, where's the circus, where's where are the headlines that are going to really blow my mind?
Well, and
take me away from what's really actually happening.
That's just it, and I blame the media so much for a lot of what's happening in our society right now, and not only that, but our attention span as people. We've become such an instant fix attention span that people don't want to wait for the story; they want the headline. How many times in your experience in media and in my experience in media has it been, we got to get the hot headline out?
I already know the end of this question, and it's 8 out of 10 times, because you'll go read the headline, and if you take the time to read the article, I'll tell you what, half the time it's like, where did they come up with this headline? Because it doesn't even say that in this article.
Yeah, well, and the perfect example was the Wall Street Journal right after Trump came back from his trip to Mexico to visit with the president, released, and there's an image of it. I have the image. I copied it off Facebook, but there was an image from Texas where the Wall Street Journal released two different issues on the same day, covering the same story from two different angles, one from a conservative angle, one from a liberal angle, and they were delivered to conservative Texas and liberal Texas, and it was two totally different slants on the same story. And
I remember that.
And that is like the prime example of, dishonest media that you cannot trust. Like to me, I've said it for years, any reporter that goes to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, I'm done with you. I don't listen to what you say. You just accepted a $2,500 a plate dinner. You got bought for a steak, man.
It's entertainment. It's entertainment and propaganda for political means, and it's not. This is no longer the freedom of the press that founded this country.
Yeah.
The Paul Revere's were running newspapers to each other and keeping everyone informed of what was really happening.
Yeah.
Instead, it's this fairy tale land of headlines that are carrying the consciousness of America to this magician's realm.
Yep.
Where they can work your mind. It's a mind war that's been coming out of the Pentagon. They've been working on the people. I mean, it's funny. We get into these topics, and I feel like there's a whole 2-hour documentary every time.
Well, we got about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
But, and to me, I mean, mind bomb in the mind war, if you look at the definition of terrorism, it's using violent rhetoric or violence to achieve one's political goal. And
is this a good time for a John Lennon quote?
Yeah, because quite honestly, all political ads should be revoked. They're technically terrorism. They're using people's fears to get across a political point. So that, by definition, is terrorism.
They're saying ISIS is going to blow up the ballot boxes. What ISIS said. Hey, ISIS, we don't have ballot boxes.
Yeah, we don't have boxes.
Did. We have voting machines that are funded by George Soros and some shady operation in Omaha, Nebraska that's tied to Warren Buffett.
Tune into the other half of this whenever it comes out, John Bound, because we're actually going to be talking to a judge of elections in Pennsylvania. My buddy Mike Davis is actually judge of elections up there, so we'll be talking to him. But give us your John Lennon quote, because it was a really good quote.
You're talking about using violence, and this is what. And I found this quote recently. It just came out of the sky because I've heard a lot of Lennon quotes, and they're all great, but this one just really hit home. And we're being bombarded with this mind war of violence, of fear, of anxiety, of propaganda.
Dude, families are literally hating each other. Friends are unfriending people on Facebook, stuff like that. It's insane. It's insane.
It's exponential. The way that people are attacking each other, and it's over a couple of stooges, a couple of puppets, man.
Well, I want to give you.
We all got to band together,
John. I'm going to give you the last 3 minutes here, man. Go.
Okay, so John Lennon said, "When it gets down to having to use violence, then you are playing the system's game. The establishment will irritate you, pull your beard, flick your face to make you fight. Because once they've got you violent, then they know how to handle you. The only thing they don't know how to handle is nonviolence and humor." And that's where the frequency needs to come down to, is nonviolence and humor, and realizing that we're not idiots. We're sick and tired of being talked to by idiots like we're idiots. And that's what's bubbling up to the surface in this country right now. That's why people are so ashamed of who's running for either party. That's the feeling that you have in your gut. We don't have the best representatives in Congress. They've got a 9% approval rating.
Yeah.
Mainstream media has a 6% approval rating. No one is representing us because these arrogant puffballs that are being paid millions of dollars, taxpayer dollars, funneling into the mainstream media, taxpayer dollars paying for Obama's $1 million Hawaiian vacations, taxpayer dollars paying for all kinds of crazy stuff. Our hard-working money, we're all working so hard. We're working 8 to 10-hour days a week. We pray, we hope and pray that there's somebody out there that can be a voice for us.
Yep.
Fortunately, there's groups of people like Chris Jordan here that are a voice for the people. This needs to grow. It needs to be supported. Unfortunately, we've given all of our support to an entity, a global entity that is doing nothing but taking us down from every which direction. But the only chance that we have once this election is over, and it's going to go one of two ways, we're at a crossroads. We're at Robert Johnson's crossroads right now. We're either going to go total tyranny with Hillary Clinton, or who knows where, really, with Donald Trump. Who knows where? It's like a big cloud of...
The planet of Nibiru will come back, and something's going to happen.
At least the road that goes down this way, Hillary Clinton, I can see what that city looks like. It's a horrible city. It's on fire. Her face is on screens everywhere. Her shrill voice is being driven into people's minds. But Donald Trump's road immediately goes into the woods, man. I don't know. There's a cloud there, and then it's into the woods. I don't know where it's going.
The cloud's kind of in the woods, and it's over the woods, too, and you really don't know what to do. And you thought you saw a clown out there in the woods? I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. It feels kind of inviting, but I'm not sure. And the sign pointing towards Donald Trump is misspelled.
That's it. That's it. Well, John, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for coming back on. We will talk again soon. And until then, everybody, make sure to stop on by Daily News Collective. It's a great source for your news every day.
Or blahblahshow.com.
Blahblahshow.com as well for John Bound. Thanks again, John. We'll talk to you soon, bud.
Thank you, man. Had fun. Thanks a lot.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Dudes and Beer pre-election podcast. I actually have on the phone my wonderful, enlightening, and beautiful mother-in-law, Carol Pacheco. How are you today, Mom?
I'm doing just great, Chris. Thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for coming on. I've been saying the whole election cycle that we need to get my mother-in-law. We need to get my mother-in-law on. She is a member of the oh my God, it just left my head, the Electoral College in Massachusetts, and has been a voting member before. I guess, like you said, once you're a member, you're always a member. It's just whether or not you're voting.
Right.
So I want you, as we go into this election season and as things are getting ready to go full on at the polls tomorrow, you're an early voter, I'm an early voter. Early voting had a chance to happen in quite a few states, but not all. So if you have that opportunity, always get to go out and do it, folks. But tell us a little bit about the Electoral College system and what it's like to be a part of it.
Well, it was very exciting. I've always been a political junkie. I've been working on political campaigns since I was in college, and that was in the 1960s, which tells you how old I am. But I'm very involved, and I'm a liberal Democrat from the Northeast, from Boston. I was a Boston teacher. I've always been involved in politics. In fact, I go down to Florida, and I'm one of the only liberal Democrats in the area of Florida that I visit in the wintertime, which is another whole story. But I was very lucky in 2008, although I was a Hillary campaigner in 2008, as I am this year. But I was lucky enough to be a member of the Democratic State Committee. And so, as a member of the committee, I was elected to become a part of the Electoral College. Now, the Electoral College has been going on for years. There are two ways of voting. There's the individual voting, and then there's the Electoral College. And in 2000, Al Gore won the vote, the popular vote, but he did not win the Electoral College, so that's why George W. Bush became the president in 2000.
Yeah, and that's where the phrase selected, not elected came from.
Right. There's lots of talk since then of let's do away with the Electoral College, but they haven't. But anyway, I was lucky enough to be a member, and so I'm considered a member of the Electoral College of 2008, the Democratic group.
Now,
I got to go to the state. How was I?
Yeah, how did you come about being in that circle? How did you come about being invited to be such a prestigious voter in your state?
Well, I was and am a member of the state Democratic Party. I'm a member of my town Democratic Party, and I'm a member of the state Democratic Party, which is an elected office to be one of the state Democrats. So on that state Democratic committee, they elected, I want to say it was 7 men and 7 women. And so people had to run. So one of my friends put my name in to be nominated, and they nominated me, and I won. I was elected one of the 7 people that got chosen to be there. So after the election, we went to the State House, and there was a ceremony. And we each had a role, and we each did some speaking. And I actually gave the speech nominating Joe Biden for vice president, which was lovely because I always loved him.
Yeah.
He was a great person, still do. Anyway, so we all had a role in it, and we got to do it. And from there on, I can be referred to as the Honorable Carol Pacheco.
That's right.
I get that title because I was on the Electoral College. But what happens is this happens in every state. And they elect people, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party elect their electors from their Republican state committee and the Democratic state committees. And so depending on the vote in the state, that decides who gets to be the electoral group for that state for that election.
Yes.
So whoever wins Massachusetts, which is usually a Democrat, the Democratic Party gets to have the electors, and the electors go to the state house, and they do a ceremony. It's all written down and prescribed, and it happens the same way everywhere. And that we elected Barack Obama and Joseph Biden as the president and the vice president.
Yeah, and an interesting thing that I know we were talking about before was the actual delegate process, the process of superdelegates and stuff like that now in the primaries, and how it was kind of a similar type system.
It is, yeah. I've been a delegate to the state committee, to the state convention many times. I've never been a delegate to the national, but I've gone to several of them as a volunteer worker, and that's a lot of fun. It's very exciting. And it was in Boston in 2004 with John Kerry.
Yep.
So that was a lot of fun. I got to be the driver for the woman who was sort of the chair of the whole convention, and she was the one that would say, Massachusetts, how do your delegates vote?
Yeah.
And I drove her the whole week. I was her dedicated driver for the whole week, which was very exciting. But the convention is a precursor to the actual voting.
Yeah.
So there are delegates to the conventions, and they decide based on primary votes who actually gets the nomination to be the candidate for president for that party.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting system. Number one, to even become a candidate to begin with and be seen as a viable candidate by a party, much less to actually get to the point of the final race or anything like that. And
right. Well, lately it's all about who has the most money.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have enough money to run a campaign, or you don't have enough people behind you to donate, you really can't do it. It's just too hard, which is kind of sad, because there are some people who are very, very good. And because they don't have the money or they don't have the backing, they don't get to be a candidate.
Yeah. And to me, it's interesting because the Electoral College really, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but has a lot to do with who decides the actual candidate for the party is, correct?
No, actually, no.
Okay.
The Electoral College comes later. No, it's basically the state committee will talk to people, try to invite people to do it, get people interested. The town committees and the state committee kind of pull together their very active Democrats.
Okay.
And then they talk to people. In fact, I was just watching Elizabeth Warren on the Ellen DeGeneres show. I worked very hard for Elizabeth Warren when she was running for senator. And she really didn't do much of anything before that. She was a law professor at Harvard Law School. But she is just absolutely wonderful. She's a great speaker, and now she's the bane of existence of Trump.
Oh, yeah.
She tweets back and forth with him, which is a riot. But anyway, so people come out of different places.
Yeah.
And they come to your attention, and usually there's some spark or something that you see that makes you excited. Like the people that were very excited about Bernie Sanders. He's a wonderful senator.
Mm-hmm.
He's very, he speaks well. He's got a big heart, and he really has great ideas.
Yeah.
So that's why he did so well with the young people, with the millennials.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's Barack Obama the same way. He did well because he had a lot of charisma and spark.
Yeah.
And they create an atmosphere that people feel comfortable to be in and to be comfortable with them.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem with Hillary, that she's not warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, she isn't.
So a lot of people don't like her. But she's as smart as can be. That's why I love her. I think she's just absolutely amazing. Yeah,
it's interesting. There's a gentleman that I know who says she's very much Margaret Thatcher.
She is. she really is. Yeah, and
You
she's
know,
like Angela Merkel. I mean,
yeah.
they're very smart women, which scares a lot of people. I think
Oh,
that's
sure.
why a lot of people don't like her.
Sure.
She's not supposed to be so smart. I think between her and Bill, she was the brains of the operation.
Oh yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
so that's why I support her.
She's definitely
But anyway,
well, and I mean, going into Bernie Sanders a little bit. I mean, in my mind, had he actually run as an independent, I think we would have a much different race than what we have right now. I think him actually
we
coming.
might have.
What's that?
I said we might have. We might very well have.
Yeah, I think we might have actually seen 3 podiums for the first time in a long time at the debates. Had he actually stuck it out. Unfortunately, he ended up going Democrat, and like I told so many people, he's not going to, as great as his ideas are, as great as his platform is, as moving as he is to listen to, he's not Hillary Clinton. He's very good at what he believes in and what he talks about. Yeah.
I just don't think he has the international acumen that she has.
No.
I think she has,
exactly.
and we need that. Much as he would like to build a nice wall around us.
Oh yeah.
And be very nationalistic. She understands dealing with everybody else in the world, which you have to do in this day and age.
True.
You know, we're not alone, especially with the internet and everything.
Yeah.
We have to make sure we understand what's going on all around the world.
Absolutely agreed. I mean, I just think it would have been interesting had Bernie stuck it out with the I behind his name for a little while longer.
Right. Well, he did bring a lot to the discussion, and he brought
did.
a lot to the table.
Well, and you know, it was interesting because I watched for the first time. I actually had quite a bit of time to watch a lot of the debates and everything else. So frequently in the last few elections, I've gotten to sporadically see things as I was working, because I was always working in bars and stuff. So now that I work mainly corporate AV, I'm up early in the morning and home in the mid-afternoon. So I got to see quite a bit of that live on air, and it was interesting to me how just before the Democratic National Convention, Hillary was like, yeah, you know, we have been the party of the center left for a long time, and we lost the left, and Bernie kind of brought a lot of that back to us.
That's true, and he's bringing a lot of that to her.
Oh, absolutely,
you know,
with his campaigning for her now and everything else.
Right, he's been everywhere for her, which I think is a very good thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's going to have a role in her administration because he's so bright and he has such good ideas that I'm sure she's going to make a spot for him.
Yeah, I think there's been some talk about the finance department or something like that.
Yep, one of those agencies.
So, but how long have you spent, like you said, you've been involved in politics for 30 something years.
The first presidential campaign I worked on was Robert Kennedy's campaign. I worked in his office when he was running for president.
Well,
was that 1968.
Tell us a little bit about these experiences, because not everybody has, like I had a small experience helping out with a local campaign when I was in high school. We all had to do it for government here in Texas. You know, we all had to take part in something. So I got to go out and put up some signs for a candidate, things like that, and do some community service hours. But what is the difference between helping, because you've actually been like flown out to help like advise people on campaigns and stuff like that?
I have. So, I actually went out in 2008. I went to Texas.
Yeah.
I was down, and I can't remember the town, but it's right on the Mexico border.
Yeah, it was McAllen, wasn't it?
McAllen. It was McAllen. My friends and I went down to McAllen. We worked for Hillary. We stayed in a hotel, but every day, I mean, we worked from 6 in the morning until 10 at night. I mean, we knocked on doors. We drove all over McAllen. We stood on corners with signs. We actually did a car wash. If you voted, and they had early voting then, so if someone came and showed us their sticker that they voted, we washed their car for free. We had a whole big thing going. I mean, we went to fairs, we went to neighborhood parties, we went everywhere and talked to people. We made phone calls, we knocked on the doors and said hello to people. We did everything. So, and that's what you do. That's the groundwork that you have to do for any of these elections, from the local elections right up to the national. We've had people from Massachusetts taking buses up to New Hampshire every day because she's going to win Massachusetts. That's a foregone conclusion.
Oh, yeah.
So we really didn't need to do a lot here. But we did go up to New Hampshire and work for her, and we also worked for the candidates in New Hampshire, the Democratic candidates there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of groundwork that has to be done. But the phone calls, the mailings, you send postcards, you knock on doors, you talk to people. I talk to people everywhere I go, which I do anyway. I mean, my kids were always embarrassed because I would talk to everybody. But I wear my buttons everywhere I go, so people will ask me, well, tell me a little about this vote no on too, and I just tell them about the ballot question and what it means, and tell me why you're voting for Hillary, and I said, well, here's why I'm voting for her, and I go through my little spiel, and this is in the middle of shopping.
Yep.
You know, I'm shopping at the grocery store, or I'm at the hairdressers, or no matter where I go. I was at the cleaners the other day. Somebody asked me. I was at the doctor's, and I was having a procedure done, and the nurse while she was doing my IV was asking me questions.
Well, yeah.
So I do work everywhere I go.
Well, and that's just
part of. Excuse me.
That's all right.
My voice for all the phone calls I've been doing.
Well, that's what advocacy is. That's what being an advocate for something is. It means that you are going out. It's interesting as a Catholic, one of the only charges that we have, one of the only things that is a directive to us in the Mass is go forth to love and serve the Lord. That's the only thing that every single person in the church is told to do on a Sunday is go forth to love and serve the Lord. And, you got, much like in politics, you got the same thing in any church, whether it's Catholic, Baptist, whatever. You got a lot of people that are the Sunday service folk, and then you got a lot of people that are there 30 hours a week volunteering, and they're out there and they're doing it and they're making it happen. They're teaching Sunday school classes, they're teaching Bible studies, that kind of stuff.
And there's ways to show your faith even, in your everyday life.
Well,
and I think that means more sometimes than the traditional.
That's just it.
Just going to mass and stuff.
Yeah,
but,
well,
I mean that has that definitely has part of your life anyway too. But
that
just going out and living your religion.
Yeah, that's
showing people what it looks like.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's living it through example, and it's showing people that look, this is really what it's about. It's big words and people in a church is great, but it's really about the interfaith between people and the interconnection between our fellow man and how we treat each other. That's the big message.
That's politics too.
It is
to live I try to live a positive political life, and I try to treat things positively.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say negative things. I want to tell you what's good about what I believe in.
Yeah.
Let me tell you the good things.
Yeah.
So, I've been trying to do that.
Well, and I've been trying to as well. And good, sweet baby Jesus, it has been so hard this election.
You're not kidding. This has been such a challenge.
It's been absolutely phenomenal. I've said it numerous times on this show. It's like watching a reality TV election,
Well, I think that's exactly what it was.
Yeah,
was a reality TV show.
Yeah, we had debates where people didn't really answer a whole lot of stuff.
No.
We had debates where a lot of things were just softball questions. They weren't anything that were really hard hitting. One of the guests that we had on right after the first debate was literally like, I was waiting for a question at any point. All anybody did all night was say, yep, we have these problems.
Right. And then you watch Saturday Night Live and you say, oh my God, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a repeat.
Yeah, it's that's just it. The farcity that's being done about it should not ring that true.
Exactly.
It's supposed to be a lampooning of it, not a direct mirror.
But Well, to get back to the electoral college, though, that's going to be very important tomorrow night when you're watching the results, because they're going to be looking for the popular vote.
Yep.
And they're looking at different, some of the cities and towns have higher voting in one area than they do in another.
Yep.
So you're going to be looking at these states. And if they win, they've already shown it on, I watch the political shows on Sunday mornings too. I mean, I tape them all, watch all of them. But you can see the red states and the blue states. And it seems like the red states are all in the middle. And the blue states are on the end, on the sides. But it looks like there are more red states than there are blue states, which is probably true. But there are more voters in the blue states. And that's where a lot of the big cities are, and the concentration of voters is there. So depending on the number of voters who vote for a particular person, whoever wins the popular vote gets the most votes in that state, gets that state's electoral college votes. And it's based on population. It's based on the number of eligible voters. And so whoever gets the highest percentage wins the state. So it can happen that someone wins the popular vote but doesn't win all the electoral votes, because it's just the way it's set up. It works out that you can win the electoral college. So you're going to be watching. They're going to say, this state goes for Trump, this state goes for Clinton. And then there are certain ones that they're actually looking at, which, like Florida has a lot of electoral votes.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about Ohio has a lot, Michigan. Those are ones that they're really watching. And also Pennsylvania, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
They're watching that this year. But I love watching that. You know, and they say this state goes for. The only thing I don't like is when they call it too early. And like on the West Coast, some people haven't even voted yet. So, you know, because it's 3 hours earlier than it is where I am, and 2 hours earlier than when you are.
Yeah.
And so I think they should hold off in making predictions, you know, until a little later in the evening. But that's what people want to hear and they want to see. So
that's the zazz of it.
I'll be holding a sign until about 8 o'clock here, and then coming home, and then getting my pajamas on and my glass of wine, and settling in, which for hopefully a short night, but I kind of think it's going to be a late night.
Yeah, I'm calling the fact that it's probably going to go till a smooth one in the morning at least. I don't think it's going to be a short one.
We may not even know an answer until the next day on a couple of the states.
Yeah, Alaska's always a hard one. You know, Hawaii same way, because Hawaii's technically in a different, like, it's not even
World
in
zone.
Exactly. It's in a different hemispheric zone.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh God.
So, and
but I think a lot of people. I know that 1.5 million people voted early in Massachusetts.
Yeah, it's been record numbers all over the country of people turning out to vote early, and that's fantastic.
This is the first time we did it, so it's really great. I'm glad they did it. I did go out and hold signs at a couple of the polling places on a couple of days, and the lines were 2 hours long.
Oh,
People
wow.
waited in line for more than 2 hours to vote.
Wow, to go vote early. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's great.
And they thought, this is going to be early. Yeah, 2 hour wait.
Yeah.
But they got it done, and now they don't have to worry about it tomorrow.
That's right. And hopefully a lot of people have gone out and done that. Hopefully a lot of people are going out to do that tomorrow. Please, people, go out and do that tomorrow early. Earlier the better.
Really.
And
get it done.
You know what? Now let's talk a little bit more about, because, like you said, just because a popular vote swings one way, it doesn't necessarily mean that the Electoral College will.
Right, because there's different ways that it can be put together.
Yeah.
So there may be one state that has more electoral votes, but not as many popular votes.
Well,
because people just don't do it, but because they have a certain number of electoral votes, whoever wins the highest percentage gets those electoral votes. So it's tricky.
Yeah. And you know, I've heard people before like, oh, just remove your consent from the system and don't go vote. And it's like, well, it's not like you're not going to have a president. The Electoral College is there.
Exactly.
You'll
I
just
mean,
end up with
you
their
need
decision.
To make your voice heard. I think that's bogus to me.
Yeah.
That's a cop out.
Well,
I'm
and
not going to vote.
I mean, where do you see things with your experience both in the Electoral College and in the grassroots of the system? Really, where do you see things falling down? Because I can really see lawsuits flinging either way.
Well, there's already talk. Of course, he's saying everything's rigged already.
Oh, sure.
He's been saying that for a while.
Yeah.
But there's already talk. I've been reading that people in the senators and representatives are already talking about if she's elected, when she's elected. I hope to say that they're going to start impeachment proceedings because with all the email
scandals and
even though the FBI said there's nothing there and people, there are so many people that have done this. They were just saying Rahm Emanuel in Chicago does the same thing. He still does it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think they're looking at somebody like me who's not, I'm not really technology proficient. I'm not a computer literate person. I can use my computer. I can use my phone.
Sure.
But
you know how to answer an email.
I can answer an email. I can even text. And I can even take a picture and send it to somebody. But, I don't know the ins and outs of what having a server means and what like whenever I need my modem or something adjusted, I have to talk to, I can talk to grandsons because they're more computer literate than I am.
Right.
So even Cooper is 6 years old and 5 years old and he knows how to get the phone and work a tablet better than his Nana does.
Yeah, yeah.
But so here you have a person who's my age. She's a little bit older than I am. She's got these young people handling all this. She probably says to them, set this up. What do I need to do to send this? I want to send some emails from home. What do I do? And they just said, well, this is what you do. They said Colin Powell did the same thing. Condoleezza Rice did the same thing. All these people have done the same thing.
Yeah.
But all of this, it's because of who she is that they're calling her to task.
Oh, sure,
Some people, men and women, cannot get used to the idea that a woman could be the president of the United States. They just can't buy that. That's too much for them to handle.
Well, and what do you? This is, I guess, my question is, what is your prognostication for as someone who's fought for women's rights over the years? Like, you've been a part of numerous protests. Like you said, you were a part of the Boston school system, and you were a union representative for them for years. Where do you see things? I mean, if you were to cast a stone in the water and Hillary is elected, what are you seeing on the horizon for women's rights and things like that?
Oh, I think it will be a huge bonus to women's rights. Women's rights have been very important to me since I was in college.
Sure.
I went to an all-women's Catholic college, and I was always made to feel my voice could be heard and should be heard, and that women could be whatever they want to be.
Yeah.
Although when I was going out into the workplace, most women were either going to be teachers or nurses or social workers.
Yeah.
They didn't have the options now that girls have, the types of jobs that they can do and to be in the businesses that they can be in.
Yeah.
There are still not as many women as the heads of companies.
Yeah.
Still not as many women running for office that I would like to see.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see more of that, and hopefully when she breaks that glass ceiling, it will open up that ceiling up for everybody to be able to say, okay, I could do this.
Yeah.
I could be a senator, a representative. I can be a doctor. I can be a lawyer. I can be whatever I want to be.
Well, and
I think this would be great.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think that's what our president, because it's funny, if you look at the 10 jobs of the president, like, not a one of them is coming up with a law or writing a law or anything like
No.
that. Their job is
No.
to be an ambassador for our country. Their job is to
Right.
greet foreign dignitaries, to, with the permission of Congress, make treaties with other countries, stuff like that. But there is nothing that they can do utterly on their own.
No, they really can't. And you can see with Obama that
Yeah.
they've kind of put roadblocks in a lot of things
Oh,
that
sure.
he's tried to do.
Sure.
He's gotten a lot accomplished, I think. But
think
they have
he's done
definitely put roadblocks in his way. along
Obama's
the
done
way.
a decent job. I
I think so, too.
I think they all
I really
do a decent job. Heck, next to the Pope, they got the most hated job in the world.
Well, this is true.
And the
Oh,
busiest
God.
schedule next to him.
I know.
You know,
really,
like
really.
there's a
Yep.
reason why these guys age a decade for every term that they're in office. You
I
know,
know. You look at
Obama
look at
was
Obama, he's completely white now. He's
yeah,
got white
Obama
hair.
was a damn young looking man whenever he went into office 8 years
Yeah.
ago, and he is far from young looking now.
I know, really.
It takes a
Oh,
lot out
God.
of you. The
It
travel
does. It's
schedule
a lot
alone.
a
but-
lot of and a lot of stress, I'm sure.
Yeah,
So.
and I mean, I'm really hoping either way. I don't see, and you know my opinions on a lot of politics. You know my opinion on a lot of the system and things like that. And I'm not even seeing horrible things for our country. I'm seeing a time of growth and a time of growing pains for our country. You know, like even when you think about it, we're just over 200 years old. Rome, we are not. You know, we've yet to.
That's
I
true.
mean, even Rome didn't learn the lessons of Nero until 1,000 years in. You know,
Right. Right. And I think people would like you to think that the country's going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
I don't think it is.
No.
Excuse
No.
me. I think we're doing very well. I think we're still the land of opportunity. That's why a lot of
Absolutely.
these immigrants want to come here,
Most definitely.
because they want to come and live the life that we live here, have the schools, have the health care, have everything that we have. So I think we're actually doing very well.
Oh, we've got the best in
when
the
he
world.
Says, "Make America great again," I want to
Yeah.
punch him in the face.
Yeah. Well, and granted, really, the only place where we aren't like the best is education. Sadly enough, we've let
Well,
that fall by the
actually,
wayside way too
We have
long.
Massachusetts is number one in the nation.
Massachusetts
I
is
will
number one
proudly
in the
say.
nation. Absolutely,
But also, the United States is up there.
we're up
People
there.
like to say we're way past people. We're way below people, but we're really not.
No, we're
we're really up there with
yeah.
the Scandinavian countries.
We're like number 8 or 9, and we used to be
Yeah.
we used to be leading the class. Let's just put it that way.
Well, yeah. But,
So we
we,
need to.
we're dealing with people that, I don't know. I don't believe everything that they say. So how do we know
as a
we're
solid
behind them?
as a solid C student, America, I'm here to tell you,
Yeah.
you can strive for more. It's
Well, that's
okay.
true,
It's
but,
okay to strive for more. As a solid
I'll tell
C
you,
student
the solid
who was
C
just
students
okay
were the
with
ones
his
that
C's.
did well in college. The ones that were just middle of the roaders in high school went on to college, and they were the ones that become the entrepreneurs and the business owners.
I have
'cause
done
they
that.
work harder.
But I was not a hardworking college student. I will tell you that.
Oh, uh-oh.
I do
Well,
recall.
you were busy doing the work of the Lord.
Yeah,
let's say that.
I believe my semester in Rome, I came back with a grade point average that should have technically been a blood alcohol content.
Oh my God!
It was literally a .08. That was my GPA that semester.
Think of how your cultural life expanded.
I
and
grew
broadened.
philosophically and spiritually by leaps and bounds
Exactly.
and things that I would have
That's
never
an
ever grown
experience
in.
That you never say you're sorry you did it, because it's a wonderful thing to do.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's an experience that I share with your daughter and my lovely wife, Amy. And we have a lot of that in common because of the school that we went to,
That's
philosophy
true, which was a
that we
wonderful
were,
school.
the philosophy that we were made to read. Didn't matter what your major was. If you were there for biology, like she was originally, or like me, I was a theology philosophy major originally, but didn't matter. Everybody was taking 9 hours of theology and 12 hours of philosophy. Everybody.
Right.
And it made a big, big difference. It really did. It
sure.
gives you a wider scope of view and really gives you a lot of the critical thinking that is unfortunately missing so much from our education system now.
This is true. And people need to read more history.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they need to read, I recommend Hillary's book that she wrote after she worked for the State Department, because it was just amazing the things I learned when I read that book. But I learned a lot about other countries and what was going on there, and then I could watch the news with a whole different understanding.
Yeah.
And but I read a lot of history too. I just got the book Alexander Hamilton after the play.
Sure.
I figured, I better read this. So I do like to read history, but I haven't started that yet. But you can appreciate things more when you read history and you read philosophy, and
absolutely.
You broaden your cultural horizons. It helps you to be a better person,
and
a better voter.
Well, and it definitely, like I said, gives you that critical thinking aspect and a way to think of it outside of your own realm of experience. So many people have nothing but their own realm of experience to fall back on. And this has really been probably since, I'd go out on a limb and say since the Civil War, probably one of the most touchy and charged elections that we've had in our country.
I think so. Yeah.
And I mean, there are people, I mean, of course, there are people all over the place. I just read an article today where people in California were talking secession, all kinds of stuff. There are many states that have brought the topic up.
Sure. Florida's always going to recede to,
secede, yeah. And, there's a lot of states that talk about it, and it's one of those, like, what's happening to us that...
I know.
That
you want to say to them, go ahead and see how you do.
Good
luck.
And it's one of those, like, what's happening to us where families are getting torn apart because of this. Because of the passion behind it. Friends don't talk to each other.
I know. As much of a political person as I am, I don't let that happen.
Yeah, same here.
I mean, this is important to me, but family is important too.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's just
you put
it.
things in perspective.
You've got to be able to understand that everybody's point of view is valid.
Exactly. Everybody has the right to their opinion.
That's right. That is America.
Yeah.
That's what it's technically all about.
Right.
And even Obama said that about of course, Trump took it somewhere else, but that's what he was saying about the Trump supporter that was in the crowd. Like, hey, people, leave him alone. This is America. Yeah. He's got a right to put that sign up. He's got a right to say what he's saying. I mean, I saw a meme picture the other day that literally said, just because you're insulted doesn't necessarily mean you're right.
That's true.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that I don't have the right to do it.
Yep.
Just because it offends you. That's supposed to be the beauty of the freedom and the search for intellectual truth that is America. So hopefully we can get past this as a country. We can get to a point where we can actually do like tonight. We have different political views. I'm not a Trump supporter by far. I'm definitely not a Hillary supporter. I don't think I've ever voted either side of that spectrum in my life. I've typically always voted green or independent. And that's just my belief. That tends to be who I fall in with philosophically. So that's who I vote.
Well, there you go.
And I've always voted my conscience. On occasion, I've voted for Democrats. On occasion, I've voted for Republicans. And on occasion, I've done that on the same ticket.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's who I feel needs to be in there doing the job,
Right, right.
To me, a whole straight party system is that two poles don't hold up a wigwam. That's called a lean-to. And I don't really...
Oh, that's very good.
I don't really...
I like that.
I don't really want to live in a lean-to.
No, you don't. I know. Oh, goodness. That's a good one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've been saying that one a lot this year because, it really, we need to break this whole paradigm of a third-party vote is a wasted vote. That's
unfortunately, that's how it works, but, it shouldn't be.
Exactly. And the system that we have and the way that it's structured, especially with, how we decide who debates,
Right.
How long has it been? It's been since Ross Perot since we've seen a third podium up at a debate.
Yeah.
Well,
they have to get a certain percent.
Well, and that's why I'm saying had Bernie actually stayed independent, I think he'd have been able to get that percent.
Oh, he would have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's sad because that kind of robbed us of this option of actually breaking the cycle. Like we could have broke out a little bit and had a chance, but unfortunately we are now stuck again with the hard pendulum swing of left or right, and it's going to be stuck in that position for another 4 years either way.
Yeah, well, I think in the future you may see something different.
I think so as well.
This election has made everybody unhappy, so I think you might see some change.
Absolutely, and not just that, it's the fact of not only has it upset a lot of the millennials, but it's upset a lot of the retired age group as well. And those are the people that historically vote.
Right.
They go vote. They do. And when they're ticked off about it, it's like I forget which primary it was. There was one of them where like NCIS beat out the ratings for the and it was like, are you serious right now? Like these are the people that are running for president, and the key demographic of voters in the country is more interested in what Mark Hamill is doing.
Exactly. Well, I kind of like that myself too, but I mean,
but it
I absolutely am more political.
Yeah, like that's kind of disturbing when the people that go out and vote.
But a lot of people, I'll tell you, I've been doing phone calls, and I've had people say to me, "I just don't care.
Yeah,
I don't care. I'm not voting."
It's going to be the most apathetic thing in the world, and it's so sad, and it's so it should be something so much more glorious and right. And right now, it's one of those like,
and I hope things, after this is all over, are a little bit better.
Yeah.
A little bit happier and a little bit calmer.
Well, we'll at least be able to move on, even if it's to the next phase, which is months of lawsuits again, like we lived through a few elections ago.
I know. Oh, goodness. I remember 2000.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I really feel it's going to be that way. Like you're already hearing about lawyers encamping on both sides,
you know. Are.
And it's like it's going to be that way either way. Either way. So it's going to be interesting as to what susses out tomorrow night. Thank you so much for coming on. I guess I finally had a chance to give you a call and sit down and do it. And it's literally the night before the election. This will be airing tonight. So thanks so much for coming on, Mom. I appreciate it. Everybody,
thank you for inviting me.
The Honorable Carol Pacheco.
Very good.
All right.
Well, good night.
Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you soon. Love you.
All right. Love you too. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the official part 3 of the Dudes and Beer pre-election, pre-game show edition. We have heard from investigative reporter and head of not only the Blah Blah Show, but also the great daily news collective out there, John Bound. We also heard today from my mother-in-law, the Honorable Carol Pacheco, who was just on a second ago, talking about what it is to be a member of the Electoral College and how you go about becoming a member of the Electoral College and what that means, what the impact of the Electoral College is. And in our final segment tonight, we have my dear and good friend, my brother in life, Mr. Michael Davis. How you doing tonight, Mike?
Man, I'm fantastic, Christopher. How you doing, brother?
I am doing great, man. I am stoked to see what happens tomorrow with this great country of ours. and what is happening now. Mike, in addition to being a financial planner for a living, is also the judge of elections in the township of East Lackawanna, Pennsylvania. Did I say that right?
That's close enough.
Okay.
We'll get it.
Lackawanna, sorry.
There you go.
Lackawanna, Pennsylvania. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about the election process there, about the preparations that he's had to go through as the judge of elections, because not many people realize that there is a judge of elections in your local county, in your local district. And this is what Mike does. So in addition to that, Mike's also going to give us some possibilities of what might happen economically on both sides of the fence once this election comes to bear. So, Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us everything about what it is to be a judge of elections and what all you've been prepping for here lately.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on again. It's always a pleasure to get to spend time with you.
Always great.
So the judge of elections here in the state of Pennsylvania, and it's your township or your borough or something of that nature. You're going to have you'll have your clerks, right, at the polling station. You'll have a judge of elections or somebody who's, I guess, in charge in case problems arise.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. I'm the judge of elections for East Lac, my township up here. And to be quite honest, I've done a lot of homework, especially in light of Bev Harris and blackboxvoting.org, all the revelations that have come out with that. So I got on the horse here, I got on my fast horse, so to speak, and did a heck of a lot of homework coming into this election. So I know personally how secure and or not secure what's going on is.
Sure.
And I have to say, we're all expecting a huge turnout.
Oh yeah.
First.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's just going to be huge. The biggest turnout that I've seen in my years of doing this was 41+%. I'm looking for somewhere around 50%.
Yeah.
Or above.
Well,
my guess is probably about 54, 56.
Well, and they are
amazing for a rural area.
Well, and they are saying specifically that in Pennsylvania, normally isn't really like, let's just say a big stake state in the race. You know what I mean? It's up there, but it's not one of those that's really huge. But they're saying that this year, like, some eyes are on Pennsylvania to see what goes on there.
Well, you have two huge cities in Pennsylvania, and they are it. You know, you've got Philadelphia on the eastern side of the state, and you've got Pittsburgh on the western side of the state. Two huge Democratic bases, and I think what you've seen, particularly in the western side of the state, I mean, the center of the state is always rural conservative, right?
Sure.
But the western, your blue-collar Democrats, particularly in Pittsburgh, are not going the way that they would normally go in this election.
Yeah, not trending the way they typically would.
No, I've worked for personally several of the guys who are in the mills here, in the valley, and every one of them is not going to vote the way that they normally would.
Yeah. Which is strange in such a big union area, because Pennsylvania, I mean, normally there's no real question as to which way it's going to swing. It's going to swing Democrat because they're a big union state. So normally they support their Democratic representatives due to that. But
you also have large black populations, large urban populations. And especially in Philadelphia, you've got a multicultural. I mean, that's the city. You know what I mean?
It's a city. Yeah.
It's within the pole of New York City too. So it's huge, and I think you've seen the pandering by Clinton. To the minority vote. and I think they see it for what it is. But we're getting ready for a huge turnout. We're getting ready for a huge turnout. The other thing that I'm getting ready for is a lot of, and it's been happening over the last probably 4 years, a lot more people moving back east. I've experienced this in the last couple elections where I'm getting, hey, I've been living out in California for the last 15 years, or Cincinnati, or we've been living in Denver, or, you know, we're getting a lot of people moving back. So I'm preparing for a lot more of the, I don't quite know how things work. I didn't register to vote, right? I want to vote. So, you know, kind of your run-of-the-mill basic issues on that side. The other piece, the other huge piece, particularly that I've been doing homework on, is about the machines. These electronic voting machines that we're on. I do have to say, Pennsylvania's got both the paper ballot, which is for your absentee voters, and then you've got, in the polling station, you've got your electronic voting machine, which is probably, I'd say, some over 30% of the United States is using this one. And they are without a doubt, there's nothing on the machine. It's all in the programming. When you put in your keys, so to speak, you know, kind of a plastic key that goes in, and then that loads the ballot, and then the machine tallies everything onto chips. Those are all pulled at the end of the night, and they go into a computer that's not hooked to the internet. None of the machines have any kind of Wi-Fi access. The tally machine here in the county has no Wi-Fi access. So those systems,
they're all closed loop systems.
Right, which makes me feel really good.
Well, and you know, interestingly though, there was an article that came out in Life Zet all of a few days ago, talking about Pennsylvania State Police staged voter fraud sting.
Huge. You know, you've got that 83-year-old lady in California or 80-something. Maybe it wasn't a lady; it was a gentleman. Where they found 80 ballots, live ballots in their mailbox.
It was on his neighbor's doorstep. They were sitting on his neighbor's doorstep, having been delivered.
I do have to say, the vast majority of Pennsylvania is rural. And we don't really have to worry about the mega fraud like the cities do. So you're particularly talking about your two major population centers in Pennsylvania. So, you know, as far as that goes, the other piece that I wanted to mention was, in our county, we hold the picture, right? So once you cast your ballot, the picture of that ballot is kept for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
In the county. So we can go back and we can pull all the ballots off of all those machines for the last 2 years. So there's no destruction of evidence like we've been seeing in some of these other places, which, you know, makes me feel good. Particularly here. And state law requires that the county director also do an audit of votes, and it's 2,000 votes or 2%, I believe, whichever is lesser.
Okay.
So there is a state mandated, you know, not mandated, a state law for audits as well on those. So we audit, you know, those results are audited to make sure that we're catching what people are putting in.
Now, what time do your polls close there in Pennsylvania? Because I know there's some of the earlier ones as far as nationwide, because they're on the East Coast.
Gotcha. We're going to open at 7 a.m. in the morning.
Yep.
And we will close at 8 p.m. at night. So there's a 13-hour day for you.
And where is the actual polling station there in your county? Just to let any stray listeners that may be in the area. I know we have quite the Amish listenership. So
I was speaking about that earlier tonight. My township has a healthy dose of Dutch Amish. And they show up. They show up quite frequently to my polling station. There are many polling stations. Most of it's by either borough or township. I think mine's about maybe 8 minutes away from my house.
Yeah.
The county courthouse here is that's where your main office is. So if you have any questions or that's where any of the issues would be resolved by the county. The county director of elections. Yeah. If there's anything major that needs to be dealt with. And although I've seen so many issues and handled so many things that it'd be pretty rare that I couldn't handle anything here.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you've always been someone that can handle it. But to me, I find the whole process, like talking to my mother-in-law today about being part of the Electoral College and what that's all about, and then talking to you previously and then again tonight about what it is to be a judge of elections. The fact that there is someone that's there that's counting every ballot, making sure that everything is being done properly. It's not just a bunch of volunteers that are like escorting mom and new young kids over and just going, okay, vote away.
Yeah, everybody here, doors open. Go ahead and have at it.
Yeah, there's somebody there that makes sure things are done properly.
Here in our county, we hold at least 2 classes a year for all the poll workers and the judges. Yeah, so before the primary, we go through, and those are 3-hour classes per class. We'll go through what are the lawsuits or what are the changes coming up on the ballot or what I mean, what are the issues that are surrounding, and that, like I said, that will happen once before the primary and then once before your general election. So we're in for 6 hours a year minimum training before we even get into the poll.
Well, and this is your first. I mean, you've worked some other elections and stuff like that, but this is truly your first presidential election in this capacity.
Yes, this will be my first general election for president.
Is there? Have you seen? And this is just the old school reporter. I mean, have you seen any heightened security? Have you seen anything like that? I know that you're in a small township. Not that there's going to be a crazy revolt there in Pennsylvania, but have they talked about anything like that? Have there been any briefings about stuff like that? Because I know here in Texas, we were on a watch list for attacks.
Gotcha. They did add security to the machines and to the election judges' election bag, so that there are numbered tags.
Okay.
Right, that go on everything, that are cut only on election day, and all those numbers have to be verified. Yeah. So we have added a little layer of security to what's going on here.
That's good to know.
Yeah, and that's little town USA. So everybody's paying attention. Everybody is paying attention, and the training sessions were especially lively here a couple weeks ago when we did our 3 hours. Our 3 hours. Especially with especially with the fraud topics and talk prevalent. So
it's always brought up, and you hear about raging cases of voter fraud, and technically, by all numbers, it's not raging cases, but it's cases that are happening, and it's not heartening to hear about them happening, but it's nowhere near in the number or quantity that they would like you to believe in the media.
You know what? I was talking to Lillian Junby about this the other day. our country was built on rigged elections. You think about Tammany Hall.
Oh yeah.
And all that stuff. And my story to her was about Edgar Allan Poe.
Sure.
He disappeared for 3 days while elections were going on. And one of the tactics was they drug these guys, keep them drugged and liquored up, and then they run them from poll station to poll station and give them the vote 24 times. So
it's a common practice in Louisiana, in other small counties, for people to bus old people in.
That's right.
We'll feed you lunch and we'll bring you to the polling station.
But
don't forget who brought you.
That's right. But the days of being able to run somebody around to 40 different polling stations in the middle of Baltimore.
Oh yeah,
are kind of over. Because of the technology that we have, and they've instituted so many. You go through. You're going to go through at least 2 checks.
Oh yeah.
To see if that's who you are.
Yeah.
Although I do disagree with the fact that Pennsylvania does not require ID, picture ID.
Sure.
And that was a Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania made. I know some states are following and others aren't.
Yep.
But in this day and age, there's no good reason that you shouldn't have an ID.
Every voting person in India has to have an ID.
That's right.
And there's millions of them.
We can get into the whole open borders.
There's millions
global
of them.
World here.
Well, we don't want to get into that.
Yeah,
we got into some of that with Johnny Bound at the beginning. He's always gonna take things to the point where there is a connection, and there are some spurious connections to things. I like to look at a lot of the facts, and to me, it was a big setup. The fact that Bernie Sanders dropped the I and put a D after his dash in his lower thirds, and dropped independent, became a Democrat, and that really kind of shafted the whole election. Because we could have actually had a viable, for the first time in a long time, a viable third-party candidate and a third podium up there at those debates. And we haven't had that in a long time.
If you look at the picture, right? If you look at the picture of this election,
sure,
you had both outsiders, right?
Yeah,
and Sanders and Trump almost completely sweep the board away from the establishment.
Yeah,
and it was, and from what we understand, it was heavily tilted away from Bernie. Some people would even say stolen, but Trump actually made it. You're talking about total outsiders come in and take over both parties in the same year.
Yeah,
that's unprecedented. It's just huge. It was huge.
It's been a landmark year, but I mean, don't get me wrong. It's, to me, I don't know. To me, I've expected
satisfaction of everybody.
I've expected Trump to pull out or pull something since the beginning, and I still kind of expect it.
Sure.
I of course expect lawsuits to swing from both sides. Whether whoever wins or whoever loses, the loser will sue. The loser will go through the process of recount and everything else. It's a foregone conclusion. It's gonna friggin' happen on both sides.
There's thousands. They're already lining up thousands of lawyers all across the states.
My thing is, he decried it's rigged. It's rigged. It's rigged. If it's so rigged, why are you taking part in the rigged? Why are you not running as an independent? Why are you running as part of the rigged party? You're saying both sides are rigged, yet still you're running as a major party candidate. And Bernie Sanders said the same thing.
He hijacked it, just like Bernie Sanders almost hijacked the Democrats.
Well, and that's just it. It's rigged, it's rigged, it's rigged. Yeah, why are you taking part in that part of the rigged system? So for me, it was one of those, even if he did win, I couldn't in good conscience vote for him because he sold out his independent principles. He had a chance to actually change things and make it to where we had a viable third party. Everybody thinks that 3 parties is in the way and that it's not viable. I make the point all the time.
The hijacking of both of those parties was the rise of the third party.
Well, and that's just it, though. The third party that's there is not viable.
It just hasn't.
Bernie could have gotten electoral
coalesced.
votes. Bernie could have gotten enough electoral votes in some states to actually be on the ballot and to actually change it.
And that's why they hijacked both of those primaries.
Oh yeah, no,
because
exactly.
It's about electability. The third party has not coalesced yet.
Yeah, no, I mean
we're getting closer. Hillary
Clinton straight up said it on Meet the Press just before the Democratic National Convention. Bernie Sanders had the crowd of the left, and the Democratic Party is the party of the center left, and we've been missing that left adjunct for a long time. We've had the center, we've been missing the left, so it was logical for us to bring him in, and then crush him, and take his electorate.
And take the electorate. Exactly. Well, and that's why I'm saying, just looking at the picture, two outsiders came and almost took them both.
Well,
that was the beginning of the rise of the third party.
Well,
electability is still the point.
And with that in mind, let's move on to the last part of the topic here that I wanted to talk about tonight, because I just got done with the big financial planning conference and stuff, and I had you on my mind the other day, oddly enough, whenever you called me, and I was like, hey, sorry, I'm in mid-session.
Oh. Right on.
But I was literally sitting there in a Fidelity meeting. And I can't talk about what was going on or what they were talking about, anything like that. But I can tell you this. They were definitely talking about the election and what election results would mean. You, as a financial analyst, someone who follows the trends of the market, someone who keeps up with the trends of the market, what do you, as our financial groundhog there in Pennsylvania, as you pop up your head on November 9th and we have a president, in which way are you seeing it, on the Hillary side and the Trump side? I'd like to hear your thoughts on what may happen, just the knee-jerk reaction with things economically, if either one wins. So go ahead, man. You got the mic.
Gotcha. Well, we know that Wall Street wants Hillary Clinton as of now.
What?
Looking at what? Cereal
for real?
No, it's going to be business as usual. I think and no matter who wins, I think I need to preface this with no matter who wins, the poop sandwich has to be eaten by either one, because we've printed so much money. We've had interest rates at just historic lows all around the world, negative interest rates.
Yeah.
I think we're going on something like $15 trillion in government paper that has a negative interest rate attached to it across the world. There's been manipulation of the interest rate, the interest rates and of the monetary supply around the world to unprecedented levels that has not, the problems of 2007 that made, that made 8 and 9 have not been fixed. They've only gotten bigger.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So
that's huge, folks.
That's huge. That's huge. We're looking at secular, like big sweeping trends, right? You've had all these countries leave the dollar as their primary trading currency.
Yeah.
Okay. The loss of the dollar as the world's reserve currency is going to hit. And the longer the clock runs, the closer you get to midnight, right? Whether it's tomorrow or whether it's 10 years from now.
Yeah.
These things are going to have to be dealt with, because they have not. The meddling and the manipulation by the central banks and the markets and the government, okay, and the collusion of government with the banks, with particularly the central banks, is going to mean, like I said, the poop sandwich is going to have to be eaten by somebody, and it doesn't matter who wins. So that being said, right,
the bread is being buttered.
Oh boy, yeah, and they're squirting that Hershey stuff all over it. So let's talk about the little particulars, right?
Yeah.
'Cause that's kind of where the rubber's going to meet the road in light of this presidential election.
Yeah.
If Hillary Clinton is elected, I think you're going to continue to see defense do well. You're going to continue to see the drug companies do well. Not necessarily the insurance companies, because the insurance companies are getting their butt handed to them, and that's why they're leaving all these states with the exchanges.
Yep.
But you're going to continue to see kind of business as usual. You know, drug companies, defense companies, consumer discretionary to a certain degree, even though that cycle is ending. I mean, we've gone now 7 years without letting the business cycle through, and bankruptcies happen. But we're stretching it. You know, we're stretching it right now because the economic cycle normally runs on a 3 to 7 year time frame. And we're stretching out that 7 year time frame. We haven't really had a dip, right? You just watched the stock market go straight up, and folks go look at your charts since March. I'm going to say it was about mid-March 2009. That Dow Jones Industrial Average has just climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed. We've had a couple of pauses, but it's been going straight up. That being said, I see the last great hurrah in the market itself. Really, especially if Hillary Clinton wins. Yeah. The market has cooled off a little bit, and I would say, you know, if you're looking for a historical analog, right, a simile, right, something similar, you'd be looking at about 1928, 29, where the market just took a rocket shot straight up. Yeah. Once the uncertainty is swept away, we're going to see a short, sharp jump straight up on the markets, is my guess, if she wins.
Wow.
That's not going to be, it's going to be short-lived is the problem.
Yeah.
Because the business cycle still has to work itself through, and we're coming to the end of the omnipotence of central bankers to keep the illusion going. It's just very difficult. I mean, it's really terribly difficult. It's kind of a rock and a hard place in my business right now. But like I said, that's what I expect is, you know, history doesn't match, it rhymes, and this would be a rhyme. You know, the market, the uncertainty is taken away, money is going to move in, you know, and things are going to pop, although it'll be short-lived.
Now,
we've got the European Central Bank is going to stop their money print in March of next year. So the kind of the liquidity taps from the European side they're gonna close up, and rather quickly. So Europe could become a really quick mess, like in an instant, just like AIG and Lehman Brothers and all that stuff.
Well, there was already a good panic with Brexit and everything else.
Right. That's right. And there's another. Yeah. There are a couple of huge elections that are going to go on in France and Germany with the rest of this year and next year too.
Yeah.
So going into next year, you know, once the pop is over on the American market, then you're back to what's going on with the rest of the world, because we're all so interconnected.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's I think that's kind of the Clinton piece.
Yeah, that's the Clinton side. What if El Trumpso wins?
Yeah,
the Trumpo.
Donald J. Yeah, the train, man. If the train wins, the
train.
The Trump train. If Donald J. Trump wins, I think what you'll see is you're going to see some of that defense come down, even though there's still problems. That might actually just get skipped over.
Do you think that there will be? Do you think that there will be an initial kick of the knee panic in the market?
Yes, because, and this has happened over the last, I want to say, two changes in president, 2 or 3, that the market actually goes down through Christmas.
Sure.
Once that election was done, because people are trying to find out what does it mean that this person is now in there. Trump is definitely going to ease the regulations on coal. So you're going to start to see our energy sector come back. I think he's going to, at least from my understanding, I think that he is going to go on a major infrastructure building. That's my gut feeling, because that's the easiest source of jobs for us. And it's also the easiest way to soak up those dollars that have been printed and bring prosperity to the people on the ground.
Yeah.
Right? The Main Street USA, which is not what I'm staring at right now.
Well, and
it's the county courthouse and Main Street.
It's got to be done also. I mean, you look across America, our train trestles, our bridges, our waterways.
Yes, our electric, everything.
Yeah, it
needs upgraded. It needs taken care of. Most of it, in fact,
good God, if New Orleans and the flood there was an example of anything, it was the example of misuse of funds that should have been used to strengthen the levees and dikes. And
right.
It wasn't.
I'm looking at a street right here where I know for a fact that most of the water pipes under this street are 80 to 100 years old.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that infrastructure would be a huge win if Trump gets in tomorrow. What else? That would also mean transportation. I think opening up the taps for our natural gas to be exported. That is coming. That is coming in 2018. So we've got a year and a half to 2, basically, before we can open up those taps, and we're going to see natural gas prices jump. So there's some positives with that, because those jobs for fracking and the natural gas jobs will start to come back. So those are my 2, I think, shoe-ins: infrastructure and energy. If Trump gets in, but kind of a third piece to that, it might take a little while, would be consumer discretionary. Once people they have a little bit more money in their pay packet, you can afford to go out to eat a little more. You buy you buy your wife something nice for Christmas. So we'll start to see some of that go on. I think those are probably the easiest calls that I have for you regarding Trump.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully to me, like I said, there is no major market panic. That's what I'm hoping for. Is no major market panic. People have a tendency to just flip out and think that like the end of the world is coming, and it happens every few years,
Dude. The United States is still the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry at this point. Dude, we're not Japan. We're not.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
We're not. We're not bazooka money print. We're not Europe right now, which is in the middle of a 1.3 trillion euro money print. Yeah. We're not China, right? We don't have suicide catch nets around our businesses.
Work facilities,
we are still the United States of America. I'll tell you what, this would have been about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I got to talking with one of the major economists for a major brokerage.
All right.
And he said, Michael, you really understand the problem. We started getting into trade, like international trade and standard of living and all of that, right?
Sure.
And I asked him, I said, how many more notches does the United States have to come down so that the rest of the world comes up a few notches and stops shooting each other, right? I mean, because that's kind of what, those are the balances, right? Those are the imbalances.
Sure.
And he said, Michael, you understand the problem. The issue is, and it still is today, although a little bit less now, we're 8 years later, the United States is a speeding economic train, right? Because for the last, 235, 38 years, we've had the liberty, we've had the entrepreneurship, we've had hey, you get to make your own decisions, your own risks, and if you lose, hey man, you lost. If you win, you could really win big or find out, something in the middle. The United States is still a speeding train, and the rest of the world is trying to catch up to that. I mean, we have huge pockets of wealth. I mean, we've been accumulating wealth at a staggering rate over the last 2 years, above and beyond the rest of the world.
Well, and I guess the question is, because, we have fallen behind in a lot of aspects. At one point, we were top dog in all of it. But we've fallen behind in quite a few aspects. Our education system has slipped. And that kind of moves down the line, and it kind of is going to provide a dip at some point.
Yeah, it has a ripple effect. But the most recent studies have come out, and the average person in Sweden, in Germany, their standard of living, slash income, right, is going to be somewhere like somebody who lives in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Like your middle of the road person who lives somewhere in Kentucky, in suburban Lexington or
no, I mean, hey, you lived abroad just like I did. We both lived in Europe. How many people did you know that were even 10 years older than us that owned a car? Nobody. Because it's so prohibitively expensive.
It's expensive, right? So
it's amazingly expensive. The cost to get a license at one point in Italy, you actually had to know how to repair a car in order to get your driver's license.
Get one.
Yeah.
And that's my picture,
sure,
is that the United States is still hugely wealthy comparatively.
Oh,
right?
we have wealth beyond other things, and what a lot of people don't understand is that we could give people free college. There are countries that do. They also have like a 30% tax rate.
Oh, they have like 60% tax rate.
Like it's insane. It's insanity, and there's no way that we can do that. We've got to find a middle ground. We've got to find a way to actually get people involved, to get people to understand that it's your local elections, it's your local people, and it's your representatives in the House and the Senate and stuff like that make the real big difference. Those are the people that are passing the laws, not the president.
Right. I'm going to tell you that you're exactly right. All the cool kids right now, are shortening their supply chains, right?
Yeah.
And shaking hands and kissing babies.
Yeah.
Because we know that the more global we go, the bigger the imbalances are. So how do you fight it? You fight it with decentralization. My local butcher, my local, meat maker, my cheese maker, honey, whatever. And I think that's what this whole grassroots part of Trump is about. Is DC is disconnected.
Yeah,
we've been funneling all the money to it, and it takes a super expensive trip around DC, and then it gets dribbled back out to the states.
Yeah,
we are the United States of America. We're not the federal America, right?
Yeah,
and people are wanting that power back, and All right, so a little prognostication.
Sure, we got about 3 minutes left. Go.
Okay, a little prognostication here. So living in a squarely blue state, and I'm also a stone's throw away from Ohio. Right? I can be in Ohio in about 15, 20 minutes. Talking with people around here and talking with people over in Ohio, I'm going to tell you that I think the people are wanting change, and that's what Trump is. I think Trump is going to have at least 5 points on Hillary Clinton this go-round. At least. Well, now, what the Electoral College does is a totally separate issue.
Yeah, exactly.
But the popular vote is going to go for Donald Trump.
That's what I said with Carol earlier as well. Was that I really see it coming down to a point of, like I said, there's going to be lawsuits either way, and it's going to be another selected, not elected issue, just like 2000 was. And that's what we're going to be with.
It's going to be much to the detriment. It's going to be much to the detriment of Washington, D.C.
Well, and it's the fact of how detrimental has it been to the fabric of America? How detrimental, how divisive amongst families, amongst friends. You know, one of my favorite quotes, and I believe it was Thomas Jefferson who said that if I can't have a philosophic disagreement with a friend over a drink and then still call him a friend the next day, I need to reevaluate that friendship.
Correct.
And that's what this show's all about.
In their families now.
Yeah. You know, it's literally gotten to the point where people are so vehement about what they believe that they have become anarchic in their own families and like turned against their family and like unfriended friends on Facebook, you know, stuff like that. Hey, man, this is America, and the beauty of America is we can all do what we want to do as long as what I'm doing ain't hurting you.
Exactly. This is one of the things that's killing me about the current school system because I got 3 kids in it.
Yeah.
You know, when we grew up, it was sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. Yeah. Right? I mean, that's what my mama told me.
Yeah, and now it's, hey, he's got a stick.
Well, and now it's those words can kill. You know, those words can kill. And Europe after World War II, and I get why they did it, you know, with the rise of Hitler and all the hate speech and all, you know, it can incite people to do crazy things. But that doesn't mean that you take it away because you're always going to have
crazy people.
3%. Yeah, you're always going to have 3% of the population.
You can't regulate crazy. We tried that. And that's how we ended up with Hitler type stuff. Exactly.
That's right. And you see what's going on in Europe now, right? The huge migration out of the Middle East, and now, you know, no, everybody has the right to say whatever they want.
That's
and it's up to the smart people, right? It's up to you to make a decision on, do I still continue to be that guy's friend or do business with that guy and or girl? You know, the market, if you let people have freedom, that's going to go away and you're going to move towards the center.
Well,
you're going to move towards, hey, we've got hope. We've got a better tomorrow for our kids. That's the only thing that keeps us getting up in the morning.
That's just it. That is what keeps us getting up in the morning. That is what keeps us going. Mike, thank you so much for being on, my friend. And don't forget, hey, I love you. If you can't be good,
I love you, man.
Be good at it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. To listen to our live audio streams, tune in at dudesandbeer.com or Spreaker.com/dudesandbeer. You can find our episodes on SoundCloud.com as well as the Google Play and iTunes market. You can also find us on YouTube, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the Revolution Digital Group family of podcasts. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.